Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our quick publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Welcome to Fatigue Index. With me this week, I have the greater known Tom Little from Tom. Where are you?
Sheffield United, head of performance at Sheffield United, and in the mighty Glossop, that's where I reside.
So we only have experts on here. You're aware, and you might not know yourself, but I like to get people in football or in specific sports science fields to talk to Mildred down the street. Like this is not sports scientist to sports scientist at all. This is sports scientist to football fan. So
Mildred, she's well switched on. We'll be all right.
Glossop, all the Mildreds live in Glossop. Nice. So tell me a quick background. I don't care about the major stuff, but just a snippet of your career, because just to set the tone for everybody here, in sports science, we are old, and pretty much there's like 5, 6, 7 of us that are this old that are still going, and it's been a long time, and so to be this old and still get paid to wear shorts and collect cones is a remarkable job. So so well done, and you just got a new job. So tell us about your new gig.
Well, I'm very good at picking up cones, I must admit. I've definitely got a PhD in that. But yeah, I think we've just got rhino skin, haven't we, mate? We've been chewed up for 20 odd years, but managed to come out the other side of it. But we love what we do, and I think that's the main thing that drives us on and continue to do it. So I consider myself super fortunate, but like very, very short version of it. Did sports science at university, didn't know what I want to do. Lucky enough to find that kind of fitness coaches, sports science as a profession was at its absolute infancy then. I managed to stumble into a job working in professional football, and then just continued to do that, picked up some more professional qualifications along the way. So I've been kicking about in the Championship mainly, flirted with the Prem now and again. But in the midst of that, started my own nutritional app that was called ColourFit, and that rebranded to Hero Pro. So I'm the founder and director of that, and just written my debut book as well, The ColourFit Method. So yeah, try to be an odd job Rod, just waiting for that next P45 to come so we can fall back onto something. But yeah, I'm currently head of performance at Sheffield United, as I mentioned, and again, just falling on my feet there. Incredible department, the guys that work within the performance team, Nathan Winder, Lee McMahon, Rob Rayner, Lee Rickards, just what a bunch of performance team I've got there. So incredibly lucky in a great big club to get my teeth into, get my mojo really going again, and hopefully have a massive push this season trying to get to the Premier League.
Love it. So this is a couple of things I wanted to quickly cover in that stuff. We're going to come back to the book thing because it's your nutrition stuff I really want to talk about. But in there, you just banged out a bunch of names, which will mean very little to most of the people listening to this. But is that the oldest team? Is that the oldest backroom staff in the league? Because you've got actual staff that have had actual jobs before, that have probably got families, and that's not common in football, is it?
It's not that common. I mean, 2 of them, the lucky buggers, don't have to come to away games and travel. So that makes it definitely easier to have families and stay in the game. So, but no, they've all at some point been generalists themselves, so that they have a specialisation within our performance team, whether that's the sports science data, the S&C, the late rehab, and our nutrition. But they're all brilliant generalists. So what I'm finding there is It's just, I don't have to be in there as kind of a dictatorship to have the authority to drive everything and come up with ideas and direction. It's a genuine democracy there, and we can all just bounce ideas off each other. We have our weekly meetings, and obviously we're together as a performance team all the time, so that's always ongoing. But honestly, mate, the amount of ideas coming from every angles, and they all have an appreciation for how the other department works and the greatest fear of football performance. That's what we're all there for, because you can get caught up in your own little, pushing your own little niches a little bit. It's brilliant and so refreshing, and like I say, it's part of the reason I'm so energized to like, wow, this is elite, this is high performance, and we're going to smash it. Very,
very cool. So for the masses, we've had a couple of performance ahead of performance on before, but can you say in 5 sentences what your job does?
Trying to prove.
Remember, we're talking to Mildred here. What does how do you explain your job to your in-laws?
To oversee loading is a really important point in the week. So at the times when we can push them, the times when we need to recover, make them recover, but do that in a very scientific and optimal way.
That's perfect. For the fatigue index, we talk about this all the time. I talk about this all the time on this pod when I don't have guests on. That's exactly what this is about. So this is perfect for that. So you're doing training and playing load management. What else do you do as a head of performance?
Directing the whole team, so having that clarity and alignment and the who, what, when's, how's of everything that's going to take part. And
what roles are in your team?
As I mentioned before, so we've got sports science within the team, so sports science data, but he also helps out on the field hugely. So that's Rob Rayner. He's terrific. Nathan is our S&C guy, so he's in the gym. So obviously the group gym training that we do, the strength, the power, the prehab training that we do beforehand. But he also does loads of work with the injured players. And then we've got Lee McMahon, who's taking the late rehab, so specialising in that bridge between the medical, taking them through more into the performance realm and making sure they're ticking all the boxes so they can hit training, that multifaceted football-based athletes that's robust and has gone through all the conditioning and got their loading up to the level that they're kind of used to and will have to come into with the team. So a real kind of box-ticking exercise with there. So going back to kind of what we're saying, it's just like the overall vision of, it's difficult really. You've got to be present all the time to walk the shop floor and make sure everything's kind of happening as you want and be that present so everyone can see you. But you also got to be absent at the same time so you can lift yourself above everything and see the overall picture of how things are fitting together. And that is incredibly difficult to do. I've not had a role where there's that much of the oversight that's required because you have already got enough people down there in that. But like I say, at the same time, I want to be a presence in absolutely everything that we do. So I'm across the kind of, obviously all the meeting stuff, all the field stuff, but I'm there for prehab, I'm there for training, there for the strength training, trying to be in the analysis, just making sure everything is super aligned with the wants and language and needs of the football manager and coaches. And that's what I'm talking about when it's that alignment, that clarity of the direction that we're getting in. What are our easy wins that we try to tackle now, and what are our long-term priorities, and let's focus in on them, because working in football, there's 1,000,001 things that you could be working on, but you can't do all those things well. So what are our priorities, and make sure they're absolutely getting nailed. Like I said, the who, what's, when's, make sure everybody's accountable, have the regular meetings, make sure it's kind of objective as much as possible. Are we attaining that? If not, why not? Are we going for the right thing if it's unattainable? So on and so forth. I've gone away from 5 sentences there, mate. I apologise.
I love this. So basically, you could have been. This is people might have picked up this from listening over the years, but this is a new evolution in football football. And you could have been talking about a multitude of industry. It was just modern business. That's what you're talking about, modern business management. And that is very, very new in football. And probably, how many clubs do you reckon across the pyramid have a fully integrated top-down performance management department of all of these like facets: medical, nutrition, S&C, rehab, physio, all of that stuff together that need managing and integrating. Like, it's talked about by the public that they would expect that to be in all clubs, because that makes sense. But it's not, is it? And it's new.
It is new, but I think in the Premier League, the emergence of the EPPP that almost demanded you have these multifaceted teams, it is becoming more and more common in there. But they crop up under certain names. So obviously, head of performance is quite a common one now. But the emergence of the sporting director, they might be the guys that are in there and to providing that clarity, that continuation of the club's ethos and aims and their long-term objectives. But the sporting director tends to align themselves more along with recruitment and analysis and the management and purchase and cycling of players. I think so that's more business and, like I said, the recruitment of players and the business structure overall. So maybe overlaying away from what you'd call the performance and coaching team, where the head of performance is trying to come in, and it's been almost like a general manager. It's viewed as in quite a lot, and in Australia and America, it's very common. They sit alongside the manager, which we still find incredibly unusual. And I must admit, I think it's not right as well, because we're not the manager. The manager is the guy that is next to God. Everything emanates from him, and we are there to support him. If you just see yourself as is important and you're influencing performance as much as him, I think you're living in a bit of a dream world. So it's a bit of a reality in there. But
I get what you're saying.
And what you said about like management, you read all the best leadership books now, like Eddie Jones's leadership book is phenomenal. Your Wenger's Invincibles, whatever it may be, they know about this kind of cross references of great businesses, and all the great business leadership books now refer to sport all the time. There are so many commonalities in terms of leading that we can learn from each other. So that's why that language coming in, it is super important, and still until you start living in that world that I'm in now, you don't really appreciate how important that stuff is. It's very long term, it's almost intangible a little bit, but it's absolutely critical.
Dude, I love it. And we could genuinely do a whole nother part about that thing, because I think it opens a whole doorway to the public that they don't understand and isn't in the public domain or public conscious. But that would be awesome. But for this, I wanted to talk about your new book and nutrition and giving tools to the Mildred, but mainly to Mildred's grandkids and those that play grassroots football or have daughters that do gymnastics or that kind of stuff. You've got kids, I've got kids. What do we feed them? And what do we feed ourselves? It's so easy to read about diets. We've got Instagram, for God's sake. So I'm an expert on everything. I know all about the Atkins diet, whatever, carnivore diet. Give me more South Beach, whoever, whatever. All of those things, you get to be experts and all that stuff. But a balanced diet with understanding and knowing the right quantities and mix and varieties of foods to add in, that's not so easy. Like, I don't have a degree in nutrition, but I think there are resources available that might give me very simple feedback information, so I can make better choices. So I have a couple of these I should have had them present here, but it's not by video, that I bought myself. So tell me more about your book. How did you get to that point? And then tell me about the stuffs in it that might be good for Mildred's grandkids.
This ain't on video. I've gelled my hair and everything.
Yeah. This goes on YouTube, but no one listens to this on YouTube. This is podcast all the way.
But yeah, you've talked about some of the problems I've encountered there. Obviously, we have specialist nutritionists in there, but along my journey, I was in charge of nutrition for so long and just found it an incredibly difficult area to get the lads to change their behaviour. So it was a lot of theory, talking to them, so like posters, lectures, little videos, whatever it may be, but actually seeing a change in the players, I wasn't having very much success with it anyway. So so frustrated with it, given all the resources I've put in, and the same frustration is the mother of invention. And that turned out to be the case, because if I hadn't invented this, I'd have definitely strangled some of my players. I'd have been chasing them around the room. So it's that approach of problem solving, what's going on. And I focused on athletes, but everybody has the same problems. Trying to make choosing the right meal super simple. So what is appropriate for whatever goal that you're trying to achieve? And goals can change over time. They can change from day to day. They can change through the day. So it has to be kind of adjustable, your system. It can't just be a nice rigid system. But then the biggest thing is then, how do you give them the confidence and know-how to carry out those decisions that they've made? And that was a big stumbling block. I just couldn't get over changing that behavior. So the first thing was like, how do we get them to choose the right meals? Really simple, almost intuitively. So it came about like watching my lad on my phone, and he's on my iPhone, and he just knows what to do instinctively because of the way it's been created. So I'm like, can I come up with a system that is just almost pure instinct on driving the decision, what's the correct type of meal to have? So we started to break down meals into these concepts, and we thought if we could relate them to what the goals of nutrition are for most people, that might make it super simple. So for most people, they want to either improve the health, they want to improve the body shape, or they want to improve the performance. And performance was obviously more of a big thing when you're coming into elite sport. But there's loads of weekend warriors, and people want to fuel going to the gym, playing at the weekend, whatever it may be. So we looked at meals and can we divide it into those things? And we decided to a large extent we could. For performance, we put carbohydrates against them because they're our most efficient fuel and fastest fuel source. So if we're relying on carbohydrates for performance, we're potentially a bit faster and more economical.
So you're saying you can eat carbohydrates?
You can. I know it's carbs are the enemy, and no carbs before marbs. You wouldn't believe how much that actually exists within pro sport, and things that you talked about there before. You kind of internet gurus that are just like PTs with no formal qualification, certainly no scientific backing within them. They're a big voice within the social media industry, and there's things can relate into there that it's a big rabbit hole I could go down about certain carbohydrates. We do have too much of in the Western diet, but they're not whole food carbohydrates. They're refined carbohydrates that have come in through modern food pressing that tend to be refined grains that have taken the fibre out and high in sugar as well. But like I said, that's a rabbit hole. Let's pull that to one side at the moment. So we thought the other thing was changing body shape. So we thought protein's a good one for that because it has the lowest net calories once you digest it. It boosts your metabolism a little bit. It makes us feel fullest for the longest. So it adds something called a high satiety. So that's how quickly it makes us feel full and for long. And of course, if we want to get bit bigger, put on muscle, protein super important there as well. Then we had health. Health was a bit more complicated, but we came up with a system where we analysed all the kind of RDAs for all your important nutritional elements for health, so vitamins, minerals, good fats, fibre and the like, and we put that into a little score. So that was really objective data. And then what we did, we give them all colours, we give them icons, we give them names all related to those goals. So just looking at something, it was dead simple to see whether that meal was appropriate for you as well. We invented something, we simplified calories as well, because that's important for all goals, something called the calorie gauge. So it's very visual, this, but you had like this pie chart that looked like a plate that represented how much you could achieve each goal. And then round the outside, you had your calorie load gauge. And then that all together looked like a plate. So we called that the Colour Fit plate. And it worked to treat my 6-year-old son at the time. He knew which meals were going to make him healthy, which meals were going to make him run it. So I thought, right, I've got a chance with some of these not too intelligent footballers, not to put them all in that bracket, but some of them are sharp as marbles.
I have talked about this many times. You're not revealing any secrets.
Yeah, but so there was that. But so we helped them choose meals, and we built a huge library of dead simple meals that had to have a health or performance perspective in there. Not too many ingredients, nothing too intimidating, and that was working, but I still wasn't there. And then I thought, right, how can we eat with our eyes? How can I give them that just confidence that they can do it when they're at home, when they're anywhere? I was like, right, well, let's make little videos for each one. And we did that. No massive production. It was just me and my poor wife at home. She was filming me, and over time we started to add videos to every single one of our meals, and there's over 400 meals on there now. And that was the one. That was like, wow, all of a sudden, guys that were kind of resistant to it, they were talking about what they were making the night before over breakfast and stuff like that. I was like, oh, I've cracked it here a little bit. So we built out this kind of system just on a cloud drive. It was Google Drive at the moment. And anybody out there can do that. You can make meals and you can associate videos with them. So you can make your own. You don't need these expensive apps like the likes of Mia Wilding. You can start to generate your own, so you can help out anybody out there. But we did that. I've reached out to quite a lot of clubs, people like yourself. The uptake was really good, but I just knew it needed to be better. It had to have all these bells and whistles that an app needs. So it was just me on my own. So I joined with this wellbeing company. They've rebranded it into something called Hero Pro, and that's done really well in pro sport. And it just added a few more bells and whistles. So we've got a huge education section in there, something called Meal Builders, that tried to teach you to make your own, loads of videos about all things like supplements and healthy snacks, whatever it may be, all very practical matters all the time though. You can order all your ingredients off there. You can and have them delivered to your door. You can order meal prep. It's got its own food diary on there as well, like MyFitnessPal. But it allows a coach to jump on there and plan you a meal out as well, or review what you've been doing. So it's super interactive in terms of education on there as well. So yeah, that's kind of we've ticked off all the barriers of what. So you
basically lived through all of the excuses that 20-year-old footballers might have given you for failing, or for not eating that meal, for having the burger, for ending up at McDonald's instead of making that meal that you made a video and gave them ingredients for. You removed all of those excuses for them and then put it into a book and an app.
It was literally that. And like I say, a book might not have some of those features I talked about, but we put QR codes in the book. So there's a video demonstration for every single meal in there. So there's over 120 meals in there. There's video demonstrations for all your circuits, all your exercises in there again. So it's driving behavior. It's that practicality. It's that confidence in there. And like I say, hopefully helping somebody that might be a novice just start off their journey. Because confidence is key with anything. I'm not a good person in the kitchen, sorry. So I understood that journey of it can be a bit terrifying to start off with, and so can exercise as well. But anyone can achieve their goals.
And as you find out through your career, I'm sure that competence drives confidence. So if you set simple goals simple tasks that you can learn, that's where your confidence comes from. So giving a video to copy this small, simple recipe, then they can gradually, the players or Mildred's grandkids can build up confidence in the kitchen around cooking, preparing their own meals, and then seeing what goes well together to output the desired goal that they're after, change of body shape or better fitness levels or higher performance or cognitive stuff.
Yeah, you
Is that
summed
right?
it up perfectly there, mate. And you've been through the journey. You've been through that problem solving with what you did with your strength lab and your heroes training. You took the problems in there. You made it so simple. You made it colourful. You made it engaging. Obviously, with the link to all the heroes with the kids. And it's so practical. The steps in there are incredibly easy to do. They're engaging. There's videos in there. You've nailed it for a journey yourself. And you know it's that kind of problem-solving journey of tweaking it as you're going along. So, yeah, you've experienced and get it and summed it up perfectly there, bud.
Brilliant, dude. Like lots of expanding a toolbox. That's what I'm about. Like whether it's movement in 5-year-olds or from like this, it's expanding the toolbox of knowledge of what food is good or bad. Because we hear what's good or bad all the time, and it from my experience, it just depends on which of the 7 massive conglomerates in the world is investing in which food at the time. Is that's all it's about. It's got no relation. It's very often got no relation to the truth. So your book just cuts through the BS and gives you actual facts about which food is actually good for you and the reasons why.
Yeah, and I've not invented any new concept in here in terms of scientific knowledge. Obviously, both of us has come from a real scientific background, and so we hugely value peer-reviewed evidence and the likes. So it's getting that kind of message and simplifying it down so it's something that you can live by and use. So what we talk about is all been proved by multiple studies, whether it's etological studies looking at worldwide populations of who's got the healthiest kind of diet, like your Mediterranean diet, your DASH diets, and the like, whether it's kind of right to the other end of the kind of peer-reviewed double-blind studies of showing it, and they all show the kind of right evidence that carbohydrates certainly aren't bad, but it's great to periodize them based on how active you are. So quite simply, if you're very active or some important performances coming up, take on a bit more carbohydrates, but when you're not, reduce them a little bit so you can have more foods in there. They're going to promote you being healthy and promote you being lean as well. And by doing that, you can have that perfect paradigm of you're nice and lean, if that's a priority for you. Your health, which will be the number one, and nutrition plays such an important integral role with that. And then if you want to perform, you can perform to your maximum whenever you want. And obviously that's a bit more of a key element when you're coming up to elite performance, particularly in sports like football and rugby and want that can have to perform multiple times a week. They have to adjust their diet all the time. So simplifying that message and making sure it's not just like when I'm coming up to performance, I'm relying on kind of sugary bars and drinks and refined cereals and the like that do have carbohydrates, but they're not carbohydrates that are healthy for us. We want to focus on our whole food type of carbohydrates that we're going to get from things like oats, from whole grains, from starchy vegetables, and all vegetables, from fruits. They're the type of things that we want to be including in the diet. And that is nutrition. Is 101 is if you can eat as much whole food as possible, so if it can be grown or caught, you're going to be on the way to a pretty good diet in the main. And the reason that nutrition is so confusing is it's everybody eats. Everybody's got to eat multiple times a day unless you're following some pretty strict fasting rule. So there's so much interest and money to be made in that industry that if you just turn up and say the same boring message, that is pretty much eat a high proportion of vegetables, salads, and a bit of fruit, have good quality protein sources, it's not very sexy and it's not going to catch somebody's attention. If you come in and say, eat a carnivore diet, eat an animal from tip to toe and chew on its testicles and things like that, and then look at my muscles, because whatever I'm doing in there, forget about my internal organ health and the likes, it sells in there. So it can be fused and it's tribal. People are so bloody passionate and kind of will almost ignore science and facts because
vegan against the carnivore.
yeah,
Jesus,
oh
put them in a
wow,
room and watch them
it's
go.
unbelievable, and the low carb movement and things like that. And there are problems with certain type of carbohydrates, but healthy carbohydrates are absolutely essential part of anybody's diet, because that's our main element of where we're getting lots of fiber from, lots of minerals from, lots of B vitamins and the like from.
Fuel.
And fiber, how important is that in our diet? If you're going completely away from carbohydrates, you're not getting different types of fibers in your diet, you're not supporting good gut health. Talk about rabbit holes, gut health, you could go on forever, but it's quite simple. If you're having a wide array of different coloured vegetables, you're going to have good health in the main. So again, that's a great thing that relates to so many areas of health, our cognitive health, our organ health, keeps us lean, effects on our kind of immunity. 2/3 of our immune cells are held within our gut, and there's lots of signaling molecules that go on and affect kind of our organs, our hormones, whatever it may be. So there's multiple facets that come with having a healthy diet that contains carbohydrate.
And the weird thing is that I think we're probably an appropriate age for this, in that there was a big change in the 70s where low fat, where big business decided that food was where you could make a lot of money, and then it was similar to with tobacco companies, wasn't it? In that they decided low fat was the way to go and invented loads of synthetic foods that were low in fat and high in other stuff, manufactured carbohydrates usually, which were really tasty. And over the next 20 years, the scientists invented the most perfectly invented chemical compounds that both were delicious but had really low satiety. So you remained hungry while eating this perfectly delicious food source, like Dunkin' Donuts. The plain Dunkin' Donuts is almost the perfect set of molecules that do these things to the brain, to the hormones in the brain, which make you more hungry and make you crave these things. So as humans, we're pursuing these things. It's basically a war against big business, who have created these wonderful brands and marketing things that do stuff to our brain, but then also the chemicals from the bad chemicals we put in our bodies all the time, which make our brains and bodies want all these bad foods more and more and more. And we deep down know that if we eat food that used to be alive at some point, that's probably the healthier way to go, because, nature, evolution, all that stuff. So what I think is, deep down, most people know this stuff, but your book gives them better tools to understand and make better decisions in the process. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally. And again, you've summed it up brilliantly there. It's almost a war based on the clever. Any company wants us to have more of their product. So they've got very clever scientists in there that are going to take on a number of things that are going to make us crave that food. So it's a war against hunger a little bit, as you mentioned there. It's a war against ingredients that we actually crave, and we're hardwired through our evolution to take on food, because the food used to be scarce. So if we're hardwired to take certain ingredients on that are going to be calorific to us, we needed them back when the food was so scarce, but now food is everywhere. It's super convenient. So they'll put in combinations of refined carbohydrates and fats that you don't really find that much in nature. A little bit in nuts and seeds out there, but you don't really find that combination as much as you find in these manufactured food. High sugar, which again releases dopamine. High salt, that releases kind of dopamine. Lack of fiber, typically quite low in protein a lot of the time. Kind of natural protein, which is going to help us feel full and hunger that you mentioned before. So we want these foods. They're not making us very hungry. We're surrounded by them. They're just in the cupboard over there, and they're packaged, and certain ingredients that we're putting in there means that they don't go off. These tend to be kind of our hydrogenated fats, which we're just not evolved to take. They were invented as industrial lubricant is kind of where they came from, but they're quite palatable when you put them in there, and they give the stability of the food, which is good in one way. We do need a stable food supply. We can't have everything that's going off, but they're very much taken us down that line where through all their promotion, us craving them, and the convenience, and where it is advertised to us in the supermarkets and coming from everywhere. The Western diet has 70% ultra-processed foods, and kids even more so. And we all know, I've got kids, that journey of trying to get them away from that, because their taste buds have been completely altered by the high sugar, the high salt, that it nulls down flavours of everything else. So everything else is a bit bland and a bit blur, basically, and it's not releasing that dopamine that they kind of get in from anywhere else. If you go on kind of a journey from what was a bad diet to a more healthy diet, and then you start to taste some of these foods that you used to have before, you're like, Jesus, what is in that? My biggest one, and I love hobnobs, was hobnobs. So, like, obviously, was a student, didn't have the best diet for a long time, just whatever you can afford. And then, obviously, the appreciation of how important it is of working in sport, got a much, much better diet. But the first time I went back and had a hobnob, I was like, it stuck my mouth in trying to, and how much salt is in that. Just incredible. But I do like a hobnob, I've got to admit that at the end of the day. But yeah, your taste buds will change, and it's a hard journey with kids, with vegetables, salads, whatever it may be. But try and make it a progressive journey that you take them on. You can't take them from where they are to a really healthy diet overnight. You have to let them have the choices, almost sneak them into them a little bit where you can through strong flavors and sauces. So things like stir fries, casseroles, and that's the same for everybody, because you can make healthy food taste incredible by learning a little bit. And it's dead easy about herbs, spices. There's not much. You only need to know a few of them. You can buy pre-packaged ones as well. And herbs are incredibly good for us as well. So it's about how do we make these simple foods that are healthy, taste really good at the same time, and do that very simply again. So there's loads of little practical ways to do that in the book. And with kids, again, it's that autonomy with them. So if you are having bits that are like a bit salady or anything, deliver it like a picnic. So they're the ones making the choice rather than it being forced on them. And I'm saying, like, I've got my kids to eat really great. My 16-year-old is a absolute bloody nightmare still, but we're trying. We're on that journey, and everybody's kind of in the same boat. But it is a journey with certain tips and perseverance that you can take them down.
Yeah, it's what I found. I've got a 17-year-old, and she's amazing. She completely remodeled herself maybe 4 years ago, and she only puts good things in her body now, and she trains. And it's just from information that I've been giving her whole life. If you do this, this thing happens. I've never been telling her or my son to do anything in particular. You just give them more information, and it's kind of what your book does. And I think it's if we can disseminate science in a very digestible way that gives small packets of information to people, that they're more likely to take bits on board. I found in my life, my journey of my job is that research is done on perfection, and it's done on the perfect athlete, or it's done on the perfect nutrition model. And so our brains go, well, I can't actually do that, then I won't bother. And that's not how nutrition should work. So if you can add one or two good things, your body starts to change in a positive way. And it's a matter of utilizing the information, your book, to grab one or two of those things that can suit your lifestyle best, but you're grabbing the ones that are appropriate to the goals that you have in mind.
Yeah. Nutrition for me is about just being in the right ballpark most of the time. There's no way that you should be living like just right. This is health day in, day out. If you're like that, you've got no bandwidth. If you step away from that, for whatever it may be, you might be away from home on holiday and you can't act exactly the same. You've no bandwidth to fall out of it. Real life and food is such a joy that if you're doing those things, you cannot have like loads of fun doing it. You may meaning healthy. I'm not far from an angel, but it allows you, being in that right place most of the time, allows you to have a good weekend and go away from it. And I'll have chocolate every single day, without doubt. It's just quite fortunate. I like dark chocolate as well. But you need those areas because, like I said, food is an absolute joy. So if you get too rigid in your mindset, your behaviour, whatever it is, it can lead you down a bad path. And that's why there's been quite a lot of research with people that really focus on food logs and doing that and weighing food all the time. A lot of them can end up in a bad place, which is actually less effective than taking this approach of just having a flexible approach where you can cope with different environments, different changing goals, whatever it may be, different jobs, different whatever it is, you can apply your life. And if you have like a couple of what you call, I don't like the word cheat meals, but it's just an easy message to convey, ones that you're not more healthy. If you've had that for a few times in the day, just make sure your next day's all right. So there's loads of ways of saying it, the 80-20 rule, whatever it may be. But like I said, just be in the right ballpark most of the time. And even with elite athletes that have to perform, unless you're coming up for a weight category fight or you're a bodybuilder and something like that, the message is the same for them. Most of the time, just a nicely balanced plate that's got some vegetables, a decent protein source on there as well, and then just tweak around that a little bit as you're coming up to performance. And you're not performance, it don't have to be this massive polarization and shifts all the time, just a general good thing and then little tweaks here and there to try and optimize it if your goal is super important to you at that time.
I love it. It's like to complete the circle of the conversation we've had, that the information in your book allows people to nudge their behavior, just like you as a performance director going into Sheffield United, seeing everybody has their skill set and you're just nudging them using the experience of your life into the right direction together. That's all. And so just the more you've disseminated the information so that people reading your book and going through the app have the ability to nudge their behavior in the right way. You don't have to radically change anything. It's just a little nudge here, nudge back onto the road.
And nudge in different facets that all suit your goals. And if you want to lose weight, nudge your nutrition a little bit here and nudge your training a little bit there. And then all those things are focusing on the same goal, which make it far more achievable.
Brilliant. And your book even gives the training. So you can train like a professional footballer, or a watered down version of a professional footballer, or probably in our experience, mostly the things we'd like we'd like professional footballers to have done at some point in their lives would be great.
Yeah, I mean, the focus of the book is for the general public, and my editors, I had two brilliant female editors that were just on me saying, you need to make this more appealing to the general public. So all the training covers, right from novice, right through to your kind of weekend warriors. But in my experience, a lot of your weekend warriors, their actual behaviours, their training, their nutrition could actually be better than your professional athletes are out there. They're really buy into the process and know, because they've not been blessed with those genetic skills quite as much, they have to really nail down everything else. So in my experience, I find that the training and nutrition can go to really high levels in amateur athletes. But yeah, it's trying to make it appealing for things out there. So there's plans. So there's lots of different plans in there that always has a training and nutrition plan within it. But there's things like more generic, so improving your health, a weight loss one, an increase in muscle mass one, and then you've got loads of different sports in there that kind of appeal to the masses. So there's running, there's triathlon, there's football or rugby in there as well. So hopefully a little something for everybody, no matter what level you're approaching it at.
Exactly, that'll be awesome. While I have you here, that's brilliant on the book. Can I quickly delve into your expertise? Can you give me maybe one tip for an aspiring, maybe just a grassroots footballer nutritionally to optimize their game day? And maybe how about like a teenage tennis player? Like what can they do to improve their performance on the day? Like it could just be the right amount of water or something. But any tip?
Overall, because health adds so many facets in terms of your overall performance, it depends on their starting point, but I would prioritize health all the time because that's going to have effects on your energy levels all the time, your mood, your sleep, your inflammation, that consistency in your performance and robustness as well, that is super important. When they're coming up to game day, I would just recommend that something like really, depending on when they're going to play, but a good breakfast, something like porridge or overnight oats or pancakes of the like would be a really good choice to set them up, pick up their fuel levels. That'll have digested into the body by the time that they're coming up to performance, which is typically midday-ish for your kind of amateur athletes into the afternoon. They'll be ready to go. They'll feel nice and light. It'll all be digested by then. But they've had these really tasty and good acting and healthy carbohydrates are going to help fuel the important elements of the performance, the ones that really matter, the ones that rely on power and speed and longevity in their performance as well.
Love that. Thomas, thank you very much for your time, dude.
My pleasure, mate. Thank you so much for having me on. Great work as always.
That's awesome. Is there anywhere people can? I'll put these in the show notes anyway. But the best place to contact you, the name of your book on Amazon, because anybody can get this at Amazon or any of your favorite bookshops. Where can people hit you up?
So the Hero Pro stuff, that on all the kind of social stuff is at Hero Pro Sports. I'm Tom at Hero Pro Sports for my email. Yeah, Amazon, it's available on there. So if you just look for the Colour Fit Method or any good bookshops are currently stocking it. So hopefully you can grab it from a few areas.
Awesome. Dude, really, really appreciate your time and good luck with the book.
Legend. Thanks so much, Simon. Take care, pal.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at anfieldindex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.